Hi, my name is Claire Jones, co-founder of Sista Creatives Rising with my daughter Amaranthia Scipia, a project focused on creative marginalized women and marginalized genders. My pronouns are she, her. I am a 60-year-old black woman. I'm wearing large frame turtle shell glasses. I have a silver shade, a shaved head, and I am carrying a cane with a white handle, a red cane with a white handle, and decorated by Amaranthia. I'm wearing a black jacket with a purple scarf and a black t-shirt. This is my cancer story. What would you do in this situation if your feet that listened when you called upon them to walk you out of childhood domestic violence in your 20s, if your feet that listened to you to cross oceans to fight for your education, if your feet that once listened walked you to the slave castles on the western coast of Africa, allowing you to stand at the door of no return off the coast of Senegal, where your ancestors were forced into ships that took them into slavery in the Americas, if those feet helped you to stand at a crucial moment to commune ever so briefly with a traumatic past, if those feet suddenly stopped walking in your 59th year, what would you do? What if the feet that carried you through 29 houses until you found your home in the 30th no longer allowed you to walk out from that 30th home on your own, only getting out of said doors by a special chair lifted by medics from an ambulance as your mobility slowly dripped and drained from your inert body? What would you do? On March 25th, 2022, I had emergency surgery for a massive growth on my upper spine and was told I had a 50% chance of paralysis. At this crucial crossroads of my life, I made peace with a self that was no more. I knew whatever emerged on the other side of that moment, I had to still stand, to rise, with or without those feet that carried me up until that moment. What would you have done in this type of situation? Being black, being human, what does it mean? Does it mean being poor, uneducated, unsophisticated, being black? Does it mean being second best? Well, in my insecurity within my sphere, it meant all of these things. But why? How was I made to feel this way? I've come to the realization that feeling this way was not self-imposed. suppose? No way. No way. Being black to me meant being on the bottom rung. Always hoping, only wishing. So I pretended to be colorless, to live in a bubble. I was secure, but security and insecurity have no shape, no color, no size, formless, colorless, just emotion, just feeling, just emotion, just feeling, just emotion, just feeling. Now I know I am somebody. I am somebody. I am black. I am black. I am someone. I am black. I am black. I am human. Wouldn't it have been a shame if I had died colorless? The day when I lost my ability to move, or the early morning at 4 a.m., around the 24th of March, I think it was. This is where I lost it, right here. This is where I felt a trickle, something cold trickle down my leg. And that was when I wet my pants. And that's when I knew that something was wrong. Everybody was sleeping, the house was dark. And I just held on to this cabinet and the walls and dragged myself all the way down there to the toilet. And when I came out again, I was headed out to the ambulance because I couldn't move. That was about 2.5 months ago, I would say. Okay, and they told me when I got to the hospital that it was serious. It was a cancer, and I might have to be airlifted out because there wasn't anybody that might be able to do this kind of surgery there. And before I left here, it took me 3 hours to call my daughter Amaranthia from the toilet from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock. I sat on that toilet and didn't say a word because through my mind I was thinking, this is not a getting leg weights from Amazon moment. Because early in the week I had thought, well, I just need to get a pair of weights from Amazon and I'll walk again. I realized at that time on the toilet that it wasn't getting weights from Amazon moment, that I was really in serious trouble. And I thought about COVID and going through hospitals and going through emergency and having to wear masks. I didn't want to get sick, and that scared me. And so I was hesitant to call my daughter at that time. So I sat there for 3 hours thinking about how messy my house was, and I needed to clean because I wasn't able to do a lot of housework. And so I got to the emergency room, and then that's where it began, my journey to this moment where I'm walking again 2.5 months later. You know, all I can say is the power of faith. As I went, I chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That is my chant. This is Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism, the power of Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism that you are seeing. This is it. This is what I do, and this is how I live my life. Like Oprah said, pay attention to your life. It is speaking to you all the time. A scholarship to Senegal, West Africa, allowed me to visit the shores from where slavery started. I received an award to attend the darkest chapter in my ancestral history, the slave quarters of Gorée Island off the coast of Senegal, West Africa. I walked in their anguished steps along the path of deep despair, accompanied by their ebony shadows, until we stood together at the door of no return. Those shadows are still with me today. Through my investigations and research, I realized that my father was violent because he was merely a pawn in a universal chess game. He was the product of a violent, insidious plot siphoned down through generations. The first word I learned was illegitimate. Since my life filled with chaos from day one, I focused on that word because I overheard many people using it when referring to my family and myself. My parents did not marry until I was 9 years old. There were many unmarried families like ours in Barbados, but the word stuck to us. I believe this was because of how visible the violence in our family was to everyone. In 2015, when I learned that I had the potential to contract multiple myeloma, a rare blood cancer, I decided to only use my middle name, Claire, in all of my writings and artworks from then on. Claire means bright. Using it brought fresh air. Using it, I gained separation and space from my first name, which carried the burden and weight of trauma from the after effects of childhood domestic violence. Claire gave me the much-needed positivity and light to combat the new devastating reality of potential cancer during those early years. In late 2021, I noticed there was a marked change in how I felt. I grew tired easily, took naps for hours during the day, and experienced weird symptoms I attributed to menopause. Soon, I could not eat anything with citric acid or that contained high amounts of histamines. Most foods contain both of these things. Leading up to this, I had not received my regular cancer checks because I was worried about COVID and the cost, since my insurance coverage was not the best. In fact, there was a period when there was no coverage. Instead of going to the doctor, I kept putting it off because the stress of catching COVID and the impending bills were a huge factor, as well as my mistrust of the medical system. Worrying about catching COVID and healthcare costs has become a part of my natural lifescape. In March 2022, I was rushed to emergency surgery to remove a cancerous growth on my spine. It was a large B-cell lymphoma and not myeloma, but the effects were still overwhelming and debilitating, and I lost my mobility for most of the year. Thankfully, I had a multicultural team, including a Black female doctor, who helped ease my stress regarding my care in the medical system. Quote, BIPOC individuals are speaking out more and more about their medical emergencies where they have been treated unfairly, invalidated, and degraded. This treatment can have dangerous consequences, as many minorities, especially Black people, already feel immense distrust towards medical practitioners. Taken from Disparities in Medical Care, PlannedParenthood.org. In an article titled, Do You Trust Your Doctor? On Medium.com, that showed me how fortunate I was to meet a Black doctor. Black Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, but only 4% of U.S. doctors and less than 7% of U.S. medical students. Research has found that people of color are more than 4 times as likely to receive care from physicians of color. low-income, Medicaid, and uninsured patients are also likely to go to a doctor of color. Therefore, cancer is no longer ongoing for me, but the process to combat the underlying issues that cause cancer is ongoing. Writing and speaking about my cancer journey is helping me to heal. I must live a disciplined life of vigilance, diligence, and consistency in order to truly heal. I do this daily via my writings, Buddhist practice, readings, audio lectures, and my personal 5-step system of clarities just so hit: clarity, awareness, presence, acceptance, and gratitude. These practices are my highest expression of self-love. Through them, I found self-love by standing in my suffering and reflecting through my writing. By doing this, I burned my resentments, reflected on and acknowledged the pain I caused others because of my desperate need to survive, and finally recognized my true self in the mirror. To all those people I hurt, no excuses. To all those people I hurt in my ruptured place, my desperation, I am sorry. No vagueness or obfuscation. How are you to know the depth of my painful delusions, absurd willfulness, and my self-inflicted sufferings, illusions and hauntings, brokenness, leaving me lost, abandoned upon a rocky shore of despair, disillusion, and darkness? How are you to know? Forgive me for these transgressions, for not caring or too much turning inward, not hearing, not listening to your anxieties, understanding your complexities. I love you. I love you for still standing though. Though gone you are from my life. Regrets I have for not saying what I only now know and understand with clarified vividness. Only now. Thank you for time spent giving me what you could, even when in my cluelessness you let me go. I moved on, unable to fix the fissures. My resentments knew no bounds, held tightly, deeply, eventually devolving, invoking dis-ease, disease. Today I am truly sorry. I humbly ask for your forgiveness. Growing up, me came into my own. Responsibility is all excruciatingly, internally, painfully, and all mine. I own it. You I let go, release, vanquish sorrows. To all those people I hurt, I love you and I thank you. When I close my eyes, I see myself lying in a hollowed out tree base on a bed of smooth, neat, umber-colored sand. The shape of the space is like the inside of a carved out acorn. For some reason, I cannot see my body, but I can feel it, and I'm lying on my back, looking up at the greenest canopy of trees way up above. Peeking out at the very top of the gently swaying canopy is an endless, cloudless, clear azure sky to meditate to. A deep inner whisper tells me if I can get to the top of that canopy, I will walk again. So I set out to do so internally. This little secret is unknown to doctors who kept wondering why I was healing so fast. Taken from my journal. As I laid outside the operating room waiting for the operation, my 30 years of Buddhist practice kicked in. If this was the moment to meet the Buddhas at Eagle Peak, I was ready. I had done my best with what was given to me in this life. My daughter had a healthy attitude to life, and my teachings would live through her. With this attitude, I rolled up to the surgery table and left everything else behind. 5 hours or so later, I opened my eyes and I was in the most amazing hospital ward in a private room, surrounded by the most caring hospital staff. I called my daughter, still under anesthesia, and told her I was back. She was freaking out that I was talking and slurring to her during those first moments after I saw the world again. Well, she was in my mind going in, and she was in my mind coming out. Not sure if I paid a visit to those Buddhas on Eagle Peak. In my practice, it is the place where Buddhas meet. But the feelings that have roiled my entire being since I came back from the brink over the last few days tell me something went down when I was under. As I was confronted by the silence of loneliness and eventual aloneness in the hospital and rehab, I had no choice but to face myself so that I might have a chance to live a full life again. As I faced the truth of my condition, I called upon my Buddhist faith to guide me. I utilized the imagery of the lotus flower, a major part of my practice, which is rooted in mud as it grows, but yet is never defiled by said mud. Visualizing myself centered upon the flower, I observed, as if from afar, the troubles of my life, and remained internally and spiritually untouched by all the pain and suffering around me. In this way, I made it all the way to now, and I'm finally walking again with the help of a cane.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I am an occupational therapist, and I've been working with Claire Jones in her recovery after her recent surgery. She asked me to speak a little bit about her progress with occupational therapy. So occupational therapy is a type of therapy that helps individuals with their activities of daily living, returning to things that they were doing prior, or things that they would like to do, such as their hobbies, and just things they enjoy doing overall. So for Claire, when she came home from the hospital, she had a lot of weakness. She was wearing a brace and she had pretty limited mobility. She really progressed with her mobility, started walking more, was more steady. She was able to take her brace off and progressed walking from a walker to then a rollator, and then now she is using a cane, which is great progress. She really progressed with her upper body strength as well. She had a lot of weakness in her arms and her fingers from the surgery that she had. So we focused on upper extremity strengthening, fine motor strengthening, and she really stuck to her home exercise programs, which helped her overall gain a lot of her strength back and decrease some of her pain. So she really was very motivated throughout therapy at all times. She had a great positive outlook, which I think really helped her progress to where she is today. And as far as her activities of daily living, she progressed with that as well. She was requiring less and less help from her caregivers. And as she progressed with her mobility, she was able to go up the stairs and is now able to shower with a shower chair.
All right. Hey, just took my first shower since March by myself. 2nd of December.
We worked on core strengthening as well. So she was using a stability ball. She's made great progress with her core strength, which has helped just overall in her daily activities. So she really was very motivated and had a great outlook, which I think is what allowed her to make such great progress. And we are so proud of her.
The journey to here has been so frustrating. From hospital, then getting to rehab, then getting to here. I was in the middle of my rehab when suddenly the insurance said, we're done.
And this was April 13th.
Yeah, around Easter. They just came and said, okay, we're done. You have to be out of here in about a couple days.
In a day.
It was a day, yeah.
Yes.
And the facility then had to scramble and find a way to get me home because it just stopped. And I got home, and then fortunately they made an arrangement where they actually, with my PT and OT traveled with me and set me up in my home. And by then, Amaranthia had everything set here for me. But it was totally unexpected, and so I was left hanging there. So now I'm at home, and I've been here since April, getting PT and OT, and now I'm about to transition to the cane. I've been doing a lot of this work by myself. PT and OT are very super impressed by the work that I've done, because I am very determined to get my mobility back. So I have a schedule every day, pretty much 5 to 6 days a week. I do my own workouts that they provide for me. I follow the routines they give me. And so that has pushed me way ahead. So they were surprised to come last week and find out that before my next chemo, because I'm in the middle of chemo right now, I'm in my third cycle, going into my last one at the end of the month. They were surprised to see that I could pretty much walk with a cane. So they realize, okay, wow, I'm really doing this by myself.
But you still need support.
But I still need support with the walker. I still, when I go to chemo, I still need to have the wheelchair, because I get very weak. And it looks like all of the work that I've made with my mobility, with walking, is gone. But it hasn't really gone. It's just that the chemo has overtaken my body along with the steroid. The nurse came, and I suddenly learned that I'm going to be kicked off of PT soon, because insurance is suddenly not gonna, they said that everything is capped for 60 days, and I graduated OT. The nurses are gonna finish soon. They only have a few visits left. So the most important thing for me to get my mobility back is PT, and that is the thing that they tell me I'm gonna only have a certain amount of visits. It's really frustrating in the middle of my healing process to now have to deal with all this. On top of it, I learned a couple days ago that the ambulance, they don't pay for the ambulance because the ambulance is out of network. And so now I owe over $3,000 and something for ambulance fees. They only paid $300 and something for my ambulance. And
this is the state ambulance, by the way. It's the City of Concord, which
Hospital,
is the capital of New Hampshire.
They're saying that my ambulance was not in network. Now, how the heck am I supposed to know an ambulance is in network when I'm flat on the ground and I have to get out of my house in an emergency situation? How is somebody supposed to know that their ambulance is not in network? You think that the ambulance will be taken care of because you're paying a high deductible of $6,000 total for our family, $13,000 total. Our deductible is very high.
You're not supposed to call 911. You're supposed to call a specific service. And what if that service isn't close enough to you?
Well, you have to find out who's in network.
Yeah.
Well, if the ambulance is in network, is it going to be network in your town? Is it going to be in network 2 towns over? You will have to choose the ambulance that is out of network, and you will still be saddled with that bill at the end. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
The end. Okay, good morning. This is the 27th of July, on my way to get my final infusion, my 4th cycle, last day of my infusions. And I started with radiation a few months ago, and now I'm in chemo and on the last stage. I've had a good run doing this, and at first I was afraid to do chemo and radiation because of so much of the stuff that was out there saying how difficult it is. But I'm really, really glad that I was able to combine this allopathic and naturopathic medicine, because I've used both. It's the best decision that I've made to do chemo and radiation, to put a net under what this disease is in my body. I didn't want to do chemo radiation at first because of stereotypes attached to it and the stories I heard about so many people going through difficult times, like vomiting or having stomach problems and things like that. So oncology, when we had our sessions and our chemo education, I learned a lot about it, and it convinced me that this was the right way to go, because they said it was just a small amount of chemo and they wanted to catch anything. They hadn't seen the disease, had pretty much been caught with from the operation, but they wanted to catch it and place a net underneath of it. So a person like me who was afraid of chemo and radiation, I decided, you know what? I will go ahead and do this. And so I'm glad that I did it because although I was afraid going into it, I just buckled down, meditated and chanted and really focused on healing from inside out and not worrying about what was happening around me. And I just really centered myself. And to tell you the truth, it's been a really good experience. I've had very little side effects. I've had neuropathy and the tightness, but I haven't had anything like the vomiting and the stomach problems. So all in all, it was a good decision with my team in oncology at Concord Hospital to go in this direction. I'm really grateful. Dearly departed Louise Hay, thought leader and founder of Hay House Publishing, once said in one of my favorite audio recordings on YouTube, "The most important and longest lasting relationship I will ever have with myself is the one I have with myself. Every other relationship will come and go, including marriage, but the only person I have in the end is myself. My love for myself will last forever." Cancer gave me the opportunity to love myself. In doing so, I began to rise and to work at getting ahead of my life to make sure it no longer got ahead of me. I vowed to live a life based upon courage, conviction, and commitment, only looking back to reflect, but never to dwell. I reclaim. I reclaim. I stand here newly born in metaphorical skin. I reclaim. Once lost, not yet fully found, but close. I stand here to reclaim my life completely and forcefully. No longer fretful about the past, rooted, set firmly in the present, resolved. I move forward and onward to a better place, long embedded, but not recognized or acknowledged until now. No longer will I mourn, no longer will I regret, no longer will I feel bereavement for those things I cannot change. Past mistakes, misconceptions, failures, and shame, I cannot. Memories that pain or bleed past missteps. But today and now, yes, now, I can change me. So I reclaim all of me, broken, bitter, resentful, good, bad, and indifferent. I reclaim. Nam myoho renge kyo. Nam myoho renge kyo. Nam myoho renge kyo.
Fighting to believe, I'm fighting to believe. Nam myoho renge kyo. Nam I'm fighting for my light. I'm fighting for my light. 남여 engekyo. 남여 engekyo. Here I am in the desert, waiting for rain. 남여 engekyo. 남여 engekyo.
How long this documentary gonna be for?
What? The videos right now?
When we finish, how long it gonna be for?
I don't know. I don't want it. I want it to be like 15, 20 minutes.
Here I am in the mud, trying to shine.